BBC Radio Sheffield, coming up for 10 minutes past 11. I'm Rony on BBC Radio Sheffield. We've been talking about the continued fallout from the revelations about the Hillsborough tragedy on BBC Radio Sheffield today. The results of a BBC Radio Sheffield survey published this morning show that 78% of those questioned think South Yorkshire Police's reputation has been damaged by those revelations. It's a big issue for the police, and it's something the new police and crime commissioners will have to deal with. The elections for them are now exactly a month away, and we'll get a separate PCC for South Yorkshire and one for Derbyshire. They'll decide how the police spends the budget, also hold the chief constables to account, and whoever wins will undoubtedly be starting in somewhat difficult circumstances around here. Let me start off with the first question. Just over half of the people, 51% in fact, in South Yorkshire, think South Yorkshire police officers should be prosecuted over Hillsborough. Do you think prosecutions are the right way forward?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to go through due process. You have to make sure whether there has been a crime committed, not a crime committed, and it has to go to the Crown Prosecution Service, who ultimately take the decision. Is it in the public interest to prosecute, and is there sufficient evidence? Well, if that evidence exists, then clearly something has to be done. I hope that all of us would be in agreement on this one, that when a crime is committed by a member of the public, then something is done about it, that they are prosecuted, it is dealt with according to the principles of justice. I think if you want public confidence and transparency and to really be able to believe in the police force that you have, then you absolutely have to say that if there is wrongdoing by the police, that is treated in exactly the same way.
The second question is this one to the PCC candidates. 78% of people in South Yorkshire in the BBC Sheffield poll think that the force's reputation has been damaged by the Hillsborough Independent Panel report. My question, if elected, what would you do to improve police morale in the wake of the report? Police morale. Jonathan Arnott for UKIP.
Thank you very much, Rony. I think the first thing to point out is that the Hillsborough disaster was over 20 years ago. And so that means that most of the officers who are serving today are not necessarily the same people, certainly on the front lines. You've not got the same people, by and large, who were in the force at that time, who are in the force today. It is very, very much a different force now from the force that it was then. I think that's one issue that needs to come across. I suspect that if we look a little bit wider, police morale is a little bit low because today's police officers feel perhaps that they're being blamed for something that happened decades ago. We see that there are some serving officers who are finding that they're getting a little bit of abuse perhaps on the streets because of it. And of course, when you've got the Windsor proposals that are currently going through, where police pay is in jeopardy, police promotions in jeopardy, then I suppose you can very easily see that there is an issue. What the police really need is somebody who's going to be there, who's going to be prepared to listen to them, and who's going to take their concerns on board and really act in a role as a critical friend of the police.
51% of people panel say that their confidence in the police hasn't changed since the Hillsborough Independent Panel report. How, this is my question, how are you going to work to make sure that the people can trust their police?
We need the full truth about what's happened. We need no cover-ups. Once you have the full truth and once you have complete transparency about what happened, that's the point at which the process of reconciliation can begin, and we can make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. I really must reiterate, it was 23 years ago. It's not, in general, the same officers serving then as now. We have to get that point across to people. We need to make sure that the police are more transparent. And one idea, really, for me, is to say that, well, just like councillors, MPs and so on are able to go out, join the police on patrol and see for themselves what's happening, it'd be good for the members of the public to be able to apply and to request that they'd be allowed to come join the police and patrol, see for themselves what's happening, see for themselves actually what a fantastic job South Yorkshire Police in general are doing today in 2012.
If elected, do you think will you be ever able to draw a line on the Hillsborough? The IPCC thing continues, of course. How would you ever draw a line on the Hillsborough?
We're in a terrible situation when public confidence in the police is so low. What we really need is closure. What we need is to get the full truth out there. We need prosecutions if that turns out to be necessary, if there are crimes committed, and only then will we be able to draw a line under everything and say, actually, this has been dealt with, justice has been done, and then we can move on with the